Welcome to the You Need More Money podcast. I'm your host, Matt Manero, where I come to you every week from my studio in Dallas, Texas. Be bold. That's the message of today's podcast. What a statement to be bold. I mean, what does bold mean? It means so many different things for so many different people, but I know what it means for me. It means I wasn't for a long time. I just wasn't bold. I was saying to someone yesterday, they asked me, what's your biggest regret in business? And I said, it's not just business, man. It's the biggest regret in my life is I just didn't have a big enough ask. And they said, what do you mean? I go, man, I didn't ask for enough from my customers or from my employees or from my vendors. And I sure as hell didn't ask enough of myself for too long. And boy, have I changed that. But so's my guest, Cristiano, CEO of Bold, has changed too, man. I've watched it change. Brian, welcome to the show.
Oh, Matt, thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. And I have definitely changed. It's awesome. Being bold is where it's at.
Dude, you have. And I don't know what you were before, but I know through the pivot point, right? There was a clear transformational point for you. My assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, was it was the impact of our friend Hank Norman, in which, you know, as you may or may not know my story with Hank, Hank said, if you get this right, your life will be better. What he meant is hit record, be vulnerable, be transparent. He was right. I'm assuming there was an influence of Hank that got you to say, okay, I'll trust you. I'll hit record. I'll go.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Oh, man. Well, I agree. I think Hank was a massive catalyst for me to just own who I am, stop trying to create what I think I need to be and just be it. Yeah. And Hank said a couple things to me. He said, when we first met, this was about a year ago, he said, look, man, you got something. You do. He's like, I'm not BSing you. I'm not just going to work with anybody. You've got something. But like you need to take it to another level. And the first conversation I had with Hank, which I don't even know if I've told him this, but in the first 10 minutes of the first conversation, we're talking, and I had just come off CBS doing this, commentary of the Super Bowl ads last year live. Oh, what was good? You know, what was trending, et cetera. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I'm getting all this exposure. I'm on CBS talking about Super Bowl ads right after the Super Bowl live. That's cool. And he goes, dude, it was pointless. I'm like, what? What are you talking about, man? This is the best thing I've ever done. What do you mean it's just pointless? And he goes, you got up there and you just told everybody like what was good and what was trending. He goes, who cares? No one cares about what you think about the Super Bowl ads. And then he goes on to this whole thing about how I should have gotten up there and said, look, this was good, but here's the brands that didn't hit, and here's why, and here's what I would do different about it. And I said, that's cool, man, but I don't want to crap on all the other ad agencies. And he just goes, what? Yeah. It hangs away. What? He just stops me mid-sentence. I'm about to try to finish what I'm saying. He goes, well, I don't know what that was. Whatever that was, it deep down inside of you is holding you back from everything you ever wanted. He goes, I might not help you find it, but you sure as hell need to go figure it out and find out what that was, because that thing, whatever it is messing you up, man. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I thought you were just going to tell me how to like be better on camera. That moment, and then everything he did and everything from there has changed everything, man. That was it.
Oh, dude, I think it was about 3 years ago. I remember we have morning scrums in our office with our team, and we used to do them every day. Now we only do them once a week on Mondays. But I remember one of them, I said, you guys mark my words, social media is going to go down as the biggest waste of time in the history of business. It was just 3 years ago I said that, man. And
do you still like that?
Oh, no, dude. Social media has enhanced my life. It has made my life so much better in so many different ways. I get to meet the most amazing people. The ability to do a podcast, meet guys like yourself and so many of the people that we both know. I mean, it's just changed everything for me for the better. So let's get into Bold, because I don't know that everybody knows what your company does, how you make your income. So let's just go there for a minute. You make your income how?
Bold Worldwide, we're a media and marketing company. I had originally started a production company back in the early 2000s, different company. I grew that started working with the big ad agencies, thought it was great, absolutely hated the process, hated the red tape, hated the politics. And I said, I'm just going to go direct the client. That's around 2010. But my business partner started Bold. And so what we do now is we look at what is a business really trying to achieve? What are its goals? Usually it's growth or leads or something related to growth or sales, right? Always. Otherwise, why are you in business, right? But what is a business actually trying to achieve in what period of time? And then how do we create a marketing strategy and deployment around that and then track those actual like KPIs that we then can say what worked and what didn't work. And so we have data scientists in house. We have the whole creative team here in house with a lot of experience. And so we tied and buttoned up all those things together so that we can create marketing and content and media that performs.
So is it a little bit like a VaynerMedia?
It is. We're similar in that regard. And I don't know if you saw Zimmerman speak at 10x, but he's actually a little bit of a mentor of mine. Very similar in that regard. I mean, he's at the 4.5 billion mark, so that's next level stuff. But yeah, it really comes down to what story are you telling? Like, what real story are you telling? And then where are you telling that story in front of the right people? But beyond that, because I think a lot decent agencies do that, but the next level is really the data science, not just analytics.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 months ago, I invested in full-time data scientists on staff so that we can say, well, what really numbers really do matter, and how do we actually correlate that back at the end of the day? So,
yeah. So, and that begins to really put science to where you're allocating your cash, right? And that isn't that the biggest thing. Everyone else is just throwing noodles on the ceiling, which we've done here for so many years. We've pissed away so much money by literally not having a strategy, or conversely, having someone on staff in a marketing capacity who we thought was delivering us a strategy that was the wrong damn strategy, right? So we just threw money down the freaking drain because me as the owner felt overwhelmed, felt chaotic, was unable to really understand enough of it. So you just turn it over to somebody else and you got hosed.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's surprising how many businesses, big and small, are in that same scenario where, and even more so now, we're seeing that with the trend of data is accessible to everyone. There's tons of data in Facebook, tons of data in Google, but then you really say, well, what of those really matter? And nobody knows. That to me is equally scary and a huge opportunity.
So let me ask you this question. I have a huge call with my publisher tomorrow on the book, You Need More Money, right? We're doing our first follow-up since we have changed our Facebook marketing campaign. The first phase, which was basically December and January and half of February, was gain exposure for the book and gain exposure for me. It was not a buy now campaign, right?
Right.
And we spent a lot of money on that campaign. And then 2 weeks ago, we converted our ads to click here, buy now, driving traffic to Amazon. And my marketing guys said that we have had in the last 2 weeks over 16,000 clicks on the buy now, which takes them directly to the buy now page on Amazon off of the Facebook or Instagram ad. Okay. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow I have the call with Penguin, which they will end up sharing the numbers of pre-orders with me for tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
Do you have any idea, this is a selfish question, but it's an important question for anybody who's doing Facebook ads with click-throughs to something. Do you have any idea what a reasonable conversion rate would be of 16,000 people who clicked the button and went to Facebook or went to Amazon for the book?
Man, well, that's a big question. But first, I'll take a quick step back, and I can't wait for your launch to happen. And you did give me your book. I started reading it on the flight back. I'm excited to drill through it. It's an awesome book. I'm very excited for it and for you.
Thank you.
It's hard to give a benchmark when there's no existing benchmark, right? Because what a conversion rate for you might be different for me, might be different for someone else. And so I could give broad industry examples like, hey, if 10% of that traffic converted or 20% of that traffic converted. But here's what it comes down to. It comes down to a few things. One, what's the quality of that traffic that you're sending? How aware is it? Just people that are aware of you, they saw something, but they don't necessarily know you're selling a book, because they might not convert. Somebody that says, hey man, I've watched every podcast you have, I've watched every piece of content you have, they're probably going to convert. And then there's the people in the middle of that funnel that are, hey, I know who Matt Manero is, I know that he's selling a book, that's really cool, I know this is why I need it, and they might convert. And so it really depends on, what's the quality of that traffic, and then who are the people that have been built up in that top of the funnel until now. That's going to be the difference between a 20, 30, 40% conversion rate and a 1% conversion rate.
How could it be a How could it possibly be a 1% conversion rate? I'm not saying that was your answer, right? Yeah, hopefully for me, but really,
it won't be for you.
How could it be? So here's what I'm saying. I mean, you start to get yourself a little crazy because pre-order numbers, desired pre-order numbers for anybody who wants to write a book with a major publisher, they want to see 5,000 orders in pre-order. That's really because the reason that number matters is because they've got to figure out what is that first run going to look like, right? Are they going to do 10,000 or are they going to do 50,000? They need to know how many books are they going to print first so that when the orders get placed, they can actually be delivered without having to come back and say, sorry, we're delayed because we sold out, right? That's why pre-orders matter. The number that everybody's shooting for, 5,000, is a very respectable pre-order number. So I'm saying to myself, I think we did a good job getting 16,000. I mean, shit, I wouldn't click it, Brian. I wouldn't click a buy now button after I watched a 1-minute video that finished with a buy Matt's book on pre-order at Amazon, and then I would click the button. And if I was just looking to see what that page said, but maybe a lot of other people do. So my guess is, I don't think we're going to get 30%. 30% gets me at my 5,000, right? I don't think so. But we also have another almost 3 weeks of pre-order, right?
Right.
But I can't imagine that it's not 10%.
Yeah. I think if you got at least 10% out of that, I think that's reasonable. And then looking to how do you continue to increase that over the next 2 weeks during your pre-sale is really then the goal. And once you know at least that initial benchmark of because and here's the thing, and probably a lot of people don't know what you do know, is when you're sending people from Facebook to Amazon, you lose that data as soon as it goes to Amazon. And so you can't completely correlate 1-to-1. So it's kind of this Amazon's a little bit of a black box, which has its challenges. So there's ways around that.
But you're right. So all you can do is figure out what you drove, and then Amazon will spit out a pre-order number, but we don't know what that algorithm is based on. I have no idea how accurate that is, right? Which opens up a whole other can of worms, which is, well, what about the accounting? Who pays me for my books? How do I know that the numbers of book sales, right? I mean, who's tracking my accounting? That's the other piece. So we'll get into all that on this call with Penguin tomorrow, I'm sure, but I'm just, I'm looking to you as an expert on that to say, if we've got 16,000, hell, it couldn't be 1%, could it?
No, I doubt it would be 1%. And regardless of this podcast, I'd love to know what that ended up being offline.
I'm happy to tell you.
Now I'm just curious, right? I need to know. One question I have for you is are you getting the data in between the people that you're getting to click over and go to Amazon?
What do you mean the data in between?
Meaning, during this initial phase, are you sending anyone to a landing page or something?
No, we're not collecting email addresses. We're not giving anything away. None of that. That was not part of the campaign. The first was get to know Matt, which we did see likes and views and engagement go up quite a bit. And then we skipped over the collect an email address piece, and we went right to the pre-order, which I like what you're saying because I have the book, The Grit, on audio and ebook, and there've been over 10,000 of those downloads. So we have that database. But what just by you saying that to me, which didn't register to me, it would be interesting if we took a week off of book order push and we actually just pushed, now that you like Matt, download The Grit ebook or audiobook for free and start to collect those email addresses again.
See, yeah, well, I don't think they're totally in silos, right? Because you could still say, hey, pre-order the book. They don't know. If I don't know that it's on Amazon, I do not know where I'm going next. If I'm like, ooh, I want Matt Manero's book, and I see your ad and I watch your video, which is great, by the way, and I click on that, and then I go to a landing page like, hey, buy now, put your name and email address in here. Not only will you get to be able to pre-buy it, we'll send you the free, download of my other book. I'm like, okay, cool. I press it, then just forward them from there right to the Amazon buy page. Now you got their info. You made them a little bit more excited. Now you got a database. And then there's an ability to not only upsell later, to sell more stuff, to push out more emails. It gives you an additional piece of leverage because that's the challenge with Amazon. You're sending a bunch of traffic. I hope they did something.
Yep.
So how do you create something that's actionable in the middle that now you own? And that's just my suggestion.
I love that. And I like what you're saying, that it's not like a zero-sum game. right? We can do both.
Of course you can.
So we're going to do both. That. By the way, that will be the first phone call I make when we close this podcast.
Love it.
We'll be making that change. All right, let's get into the big, bold statement here, which is so important because, and I know I'm very comfortable to mention this client because I've seen it around. I'm sure you have other very high profile clients that maybe you're not necessarily hitting record with, but you got A-Rod, right?
Yep.
A-Rod is your client, and when you got A-Rod, that was through some form of a big ask. That had to have been a BHAG client for you, what I call big, hairy, audacious goal, right? That was a stretch for a client for you, or it wasn't?
It was. So I'll tell you a quick little story.
By the way, dream client, freaking handsome guy. I saw A-Rod one time in New York City at some store. And you didn't need to know who he was. You just knew that guy is somebody. I mean, he's freaking tall, perfectly dressed, great shape, handsome. I mean, really a marketer's dream.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, obviously we all know that he's had some challenges. And he doesn't necessarily hide away from any of that, but behind the scenes at the end of the day, he's actually a really nice guy. He really is, like, no BS. Like he's a really nice dude. Who made some mistakes. And that's what's cool too, is to see somebody and be around somebody that made mistakes, admits to it, and isn't that person really is a good guy. So that aside, I had somebody that I'd done business with in the past who knew somebody that was on his team looking for some marketing and for some videos for his new website before he's going to be on Shark Tank, because like, oh, we're going to be in Shark Tank. We need to have something up that's not just about baseball. Okay. Had a conversation. And obviously, look, when you're at that level, you're at that stature, everyone is protecting the inner circle. Like, you're not just going to get in and have a meeting. So everyone, on his team, rightfully so, hey, just send us a proposal. Like, listen, it's not just a proposal. I really want to understand. I really want to be able to explain to him that it's not just this thing you're asking for. You can ask me for a video for the website. That's cool. But I said, look, it's something bigger, telling a story, et cetera, a lot of the stuff that we do. And they said, yeah, just send it in a proposal. I'm like, if this goes in a PDF, now I'm in a pile of 100 other people. I'm just a number. It's irrelevant and it doesn't come across. And they just said, no, you're not going to get the meeting until just send us a proposal. If he likes it, then you can have a conversation. So what I did was, I said, all right, you know what? That's fine. I'm just going to record myself giving the presentation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like like as if they were right there. I'm like, here's the deal. I gave the presentation. I sent them a video. It's 15 minutes long, and they said, "This is great. That's nice, but he's not gonna have 15 minutes." Like, and I get it. He doesn't have 15 minutes. Multiply that up by the 100 proposals he's got. He doesn't have 15 minutes. So like, just send the proposal. And now I'm starting to be a little frictional, right? So I'm like, oh man, like, what am I? Am I really pushing too hard? Is this worth it? Am I going to lose it because I'm being frictional? And I said, all right, I'll send you the proposal. I went back, I had it down to 7 minutes and sent them the video. And they said, can you please just send it in a PowerPoint? And I said, no. I get a call. He watched it. He loves it. Can you be on a Skype call tonight? Sure. And the rest is history.
Perfect. Sticking to your guns, doing it your way. It's the thing I say to my sales guys all the time. Who's in control of your destiny? You or the person presenting you? Right?
Right.
I'd like to be it.
Here's the thing. A lot of the time what people are asking for isn't really what they need. And most people are just going to sell people what they're asking for instead of really what's going to help them. And man, when you can cross over to that side, yeah, you're going to lose business for sure. But the business you're going to pick up along the way, they're going to not only respect you, but realize you're the only one that told me the truth.
Yeah.
Now you're playing a game of your own.
But Brian, I know that about you and your firm. I know that what you're talking about is literally something that you dig in to understand. But why is it that so many people say it in marketing and just never deliver on it? I mean, I get hit up all the time with people. Some guy came to the book launch party in Vegas and shows me his phone, which is my Instagram page, which has 6,000 followers on it. And he says, I don't understand why this isn't 12,000. If you let me take over your Instagram account, we'll blow this thing up. I'm like, well, what would you do? He's like, well, I'll do all the responding, I'll comment and all that sort of stuff as if I'm you. I'm like, dude, you're fired right away. I don't want you commenting as if it was me. I mean, dude, I'll take my 6,000. That'll be 7,000 in a month or something like that before I will let you comment for me so that somehow someone calls me out that says you don't comment on your Instagram page. I mean, I just would, dude. I have a core value. It would just never happen,
Yep. It's
right?
not authentic.
So why do so many people talk this bullshit talk and never walk the walk?
Because I think there's two things for me. One is a lot of people think, well, it can't be that simple. It is. Just the basics. The basics win, right? People like can't be that simple. It's got to be this complicated software, but some fancy thing that you know that I don't. It's never is, right? Success has never come from the shiny object. It comes from the hard work, the grind, the basic stuff. One. And two, I think that people want a fast solution to everything. So if I just do it for you and I just start spamming everybody, well, obviously you're going to grow. But is that where does that take me in a year, 2 years, 5 years? And you know that's not where you want to be. And so most people go for the easy out, and they think there's some special thing that, well, I can't do that, and it must be more complicated. And so both sides, the buyer and the seller, the buyer wants the easy way out, the shiny object, and everyone's just selling that solution, which isn't really the solution.
But it does matter though, because if people might, like, I'm trying to get Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, on the podcast, right? And his team has been gracious enough to tell me you don't have enough followers on social media for Jordan to be on the show, right? So we call them vanity likes, as everybody does, but it does matter. I mean, a guy's got 60,000 followers or 600,000 followers. It does offer the attention of somebody, and they're not checking to see whether they're real or not. So why don't I just go and buy myself 50,000 followers on Instagram and tomorrow have 56,000 followers instead of 6,000 and maybe get Jordan Belfort?
Well, look, I do agree in the sense that people do pay attention to that top number. For sure. Does it matter as far as does engagement matter more than that top line number? Absolutely. But human nature, do people care about this? Yeah, people aren't doing that next level due diligence. They just like, oh, he's got 100,000 followers. Great, I'll talk to him. Oh, he's got 10,000. I'm not going to talk to him. And so unfortunately, that is just where we are right now in the grand scheme of things. But I'll tell you why you should never, and you know this, but why you should never buy followers outside of just like it's phony. Because here's what happens, and this is and I've seen it all the time, where brands have done it in the past or still do it, or people will do it, or influencers will do it. What happens is you buy those 50,000 followers. The way Facebook and Instagram work now is they have an algorithm. When you post something on Instagram, it pushes it out to a small percentage of your followers, let's say 2%, 3% maximum, or maybe even less than that, depending on how many people follow you. And what it does, it goes, how many of these people care about this piece of content? If they like it, they share it. If they start looking at it, spend time with it, then Facebook and Instagram goes, okay, we'll show it to a little bit more audience. And it does the same thing. Do people care about it? And they widen it and widen it. That's the organic reach. So when you add 50,000 to that 5,000, they send it out. None of those people are real. So Facebook sends it out to a small percentage of that audience who's fake, and it goes, no one cares. No one real will ever see your stuff. So it's detrimental to buy followers.
Yeah. I do that second layer of due diligence. I mean, if I see some guy with 100,000, I can't remember who it was recently that I see that. I'm like, it was probably somebody I met at 10X. I'm like, damn, this guy's got 100,000 followers. And then you realize that they literally have 1 or 2 or 3 clicks on or likes on Twitter and no, I mean, it's just a dead giveaway. So I do think there's a little bit more of that second layer beginning to happen as we get closer to a relationship with certain people, where that engagement connection does actually matter.
I think you have to. And the people that are smart, that get it, that know what you and I are talking about, you're checking. I'm checking. We notice that stuff. And so you might be fooling the lower, the lower hanging fruit, but everyone, the people at the top, the bigger people that make it and get it and know how this stuff works, they're never going to pay attention.
Yeah. So here's the biggest challenge I'm having, and I guarantee you it's with so many people, especially after a 10X. Dude, I see all these people conflicted between their company and their personal brands. And we have the same problem in my office as well. The good news is that myself and my team, I think, are now acceptant of the fact that they are one and the same. But I can tell you in the early days of getting started in 2015, which we were late, obviously, right? We should have been doing it in 2006, but we didn't get into it until 2007 because I was stupid about it. But people hated it. Who does Manero think he is, man? Look at this guy. I've been with him, 10 years, man. He didn't have a pot to piss in when he hired me, and I helped him build this business, and now look, he's just flaunting himself on social media, right? And it caused a lot of grief, man. It really
Mhm.
did. And I'm not so sure that you haven't seen that in your organization either, where there's a few people now. Now, maybe you'd love to say, well, no, everybody supports it. But I guarantee you there's a few people at the happy hour in the early days that were like, look at Brian. Look at what he's doing. Right?
It was actually worse than that, believe it or not. And here we are, a digital marketing agency that is doing this for people. And it was actually, man, it was a very interesting experience for me because my accountant said, this is stupid. Like, you're just doing it for vanity. You want to be so and so in social media. That's fine, but that's not going to bring you business. I'm like, well, now I'm going to prove you wrong. One. Two, then I had somebody that came up to me in my office who I respect, who I've known not only just in the business, but as a friend for many years. And he came up to me one day and he said, I just really don't get it, man. You hired 3 new employees for social media. Well, we're struggling over here on this part of the business, and we can't afford this thing, and I can't hire somebody under me and all this stuff. I think it's really selfish. Your ego's getting out of control. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And I'm explaining, like, no, this is our marketing. This is not my ego. Like, yeah, is it cool? Sure. But that's not my end goal. This is our marketing, like we do for anybody else. Didn't buy it. Then I was talking to somebody else and they're like, that's kind of what's spreading around here. Almost, not everyone, almost everyone that wasn't involved directly in the team that was creating it felt that I was spending money that we should spend on others. We're growing. We need more resources. And Brian's, being selfish and all this stuff. When it changed? Well, of course, when all of a sudden I go, hey guys, we're going to fly to LA. We're doing a thing with A-Rod. He's going to come on. And oh, by the way, we're doing business with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man. And then it was like, oh, he wasn't kidding. He really was doing this for the exposure, not just for himself, but really for the business. And now it's like not even a question because it's night and day and they get it. But I was shocked. I'm like, dude, everyone's going to get it. Everybody here is young and they're in marketing. Of course they get it. No one got it.
Nobody got it.
No one.
Yeah, so we had to blow some people out, not specifically for that reason. We went through another torch in the business, but that actually finished off a few of those people. But, when I was at 10X, and just on a side note, for the audience to really get a clear understanding of what happens, you don't know what that line is that bridges between owner, face of the business, and the structure of ROI to the business. It's a very fine line, right?
Yes.
But I know for damn sure there isn't a customer that we do business with that doesn't come into this office to sign contracts on their new bulldozer or big rig or tow truck who doesn't say, I love your videos.
Yep.
Period. Everyone is Googling everybody before they put their name on the dotted line, and you better have something cool to show them when they do that. More than your LinkedIn approach, more than your LinkedIn page.
Absolutely. Well, people get to know you. They get to see you. They get to hear from Matt. They get to listen to you. They get to know you as a person. That is powerful.
Yeah,
that's powerful. You're not just some person in an office somewhere that smashing their fist on it. They get to know who you are as an individual, and people want to do business with people that they know and trust.
They do, and it's a little bit. Sometimes it comes across as a little bit hokey and a little bit small, though. I mean, you just don't see the CEO of Wells Fargo coming out necessarily and doing these personal or transparent business videos. But I just think it's the way new business goes, and whether they're small business owners doing business with you or big business owners. I do business with large publicly traded banks who buy our loans. Every single one of them is checking our ass out.
The CEO of Wells Fargo is making a mistake by not doing it. I'm serious, right? What's his name? Who's the T-Mobile CEO? It's just escaping me right now.
Yeah, he's all over Periscope and the runner. What's his name? John something or other, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. He was one of the first CEOs of that stature to just basically broadcast his life, and it not only changed the way that people and the public see him and look at him, it's changed the way the employees look at him, because especially when you're in a bigger business, you're never going to have the ability to truly communicate to everyone in your company, your big Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company. And so if you do it right, like he has and other people have, and you're just saying it like it is and being who you are and owning it, and then also giving some value and entertainment along the way, well, man, how many people have switched over to T-Mobile because they're like, I'd rather get him my money than some, I don't know, logo.
Yeah. But what are people doing wrong in this transformation between personal brand and company brand? And to me, it doesn't matter whether you own the company or you're an employee for a company. And by the way, on that note, I do have a very good friend of mine who has been building his personal brand and has run into conflict with the upper management, he's very high up at the bank anyway, but with upper management who have sort of not adopted it and not really liked what he's doing. So what are the key mistakes that people are doing in bridging this gap between personal and company brand?
Well, I think some of the mistakes are that people are still trying to silo it. It's like, well, now I'll talk about business, and now I'm going to talk about personal life, and now I'm going to talk about this other thing that I do that's unrelated. And I did that for a very long time. Hank was one of the people that really kind of kicked me in the gear and got that it's all the same, because it doesn't matter if you're the CEO or you're an employee. You spend as much, if not more, time at work than you do anything else in your life. And so it's really people like, oh, you need balance. There's no balance. You are giving a large percentage of your time and your life up to doing something. A, you better like it, and B, why not just tell how'd you end up in it? Why are you doing this? Why are you passionate about coming to this thing 8, 10, 12, 15 hours every single day? Why is that? Tell me that. That somewhere has some connection to your personal life. And if it doesn't, maybe you're not doing the thing that you really want to do. And maybe that's the story you should be telling.
No, it's so important what you just said, though, because most people would have stopped right there. But the last piece of what you said is really the most important piece, really.
That's the key piece.
The key piece is you should be telling where the pain point is, what that struggle point is, what is that difficult. The reason you can't make the pivot, the reason you can't say what you want to say is the story that you should be saying. It's almost like to my buddy who's getting the pushback from the higher ups at the bank. That's the story you should be saying.
Yes.
That's what will really attract you to new customers, right?
Oh my God, because everyone's like, oh man, I like this guy. He's saying what nobody else is willing to say. And even if it doesn't work out and you get canned because you said those things, somebody else is like, I want that guy or girl. I want that person on my team. That, by the way, I don't know if you experienced that. That was something that Hank said to me early on. He said, listen, when you aren't, not only are you on mission and you get what you're about and where you're going, and you've staked this big claim that you're doing this thing that most people would never even dream of doing, and you're making a claim and you're going to go after it. He goes, not only does it, at least for me personally, put me on the line to like, now I got to deliver on these things that I've said publicly. He said, but you're going to get other people that want to help to make that happen. You're going to find the people that are either related or unrelated who are like, I want to see that happen. That's awesome. And that has been incredibly true. And so when you tell about those struggles, when you're talking about the things you're going through, good, bad, other, your aspirations and why you're doing it, other people go, oh, I relate to that, because most people don't have the guts to actually say it themselves. So they'll jump onto the person who does, that aligns with what they wish they could say.
The greatest thing we should have done in that situation was hit record when we were going through the torch, right? Which was this revamp of culture. It was the unbelievably difficult conversations of long tenured employees who didn't want to make the change. It was the creation of core values and mission statement. It was being relentless to those core values and mission statements, which then caused incredible rifts amongst these veteran employees who ended up quitting and starting their own equipment finance companies and now competing against us and stealing our customers.
Wow.
And Hank wanted all of that recorded. And at that time, I did not have the guts to do it because I was so involved in fixing things within the organization. I was so working on the business, right? And in the business at the same time. But that would have made very compelling content for millions of business owners who didn't have the guts to do what I did, which was blow the place up. And I would have taken it to zero in favor of mission statement core values. But that's a tough... I have to say, with love in my heart to Hank, it's easier said than done on that one, because there were big repercussions on that.
I agree with you, and I've had similar conversations. Like, man, I would love to show that thing, but if I do that, this client can't know that. You know, like there's reality to some of this stuff. However, what I've been doing in some of that is just knowing, hey, we're going to record some of this. I can't show this now, but what about 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now? Yeah. How cool would it be to be like, hey, I couldn't show this back then. I'll tell you why I couldn't show it, but now I'm going to show it to you. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So doing some of that, we're kind of archiving it, and hopefully it's something we can show pieces of it. So I'd love to show everything, but you can't show everything.
Yeah, there is a recap though, right? You know, there's the sort of aftermath that you could do, right? And I could do that now on the torch. In fact, even I think there's a possibility of even creating specific content that says, when this happens, do this, and here's what we did, real life scenarios. But back to this bridge between personal brand and corporate brand real quick, because I believe that and I'm going to go out on a limb here and state this, I believe the employee, and I talk about it in the book, the employee-employer relationship is shattered, broken, never to be the same again. And I love how Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn puts it. LinkedIn only does 6 and 12-month employment contracts anymore. That's it. He believes that they can get 110% of each other, both sides, for 6 to 12 months. And then you know what they do? LinkedIn sits down with the employee and says, hey, it's been 6 months. Contracts up. What did you have fun? Did we get value from each other? Yeah. Should we do it another 6 months? Okay, let's go one more. Let's do another round of 6 months together, okay? Because the idea that you're going to have lifers is over. And so I take incredible responsibility as the employer that says we have to get our shit together to make sure that people want to work for us and feel fulfilled and contributing and appreciated, because I want them to leave if they don't, because core value number 2 is personal happiness. We are here because we want to be here, and I cannot be relentless to core value number 2 if I don't give them the ability to leave because we blew it. And that is unbelievably freeing for some people who they can hit record knowing that they can build a client base that I'm perfectly comfortable. Let me rephrase. They can build a client base that they will have difficulty taking with them if we booked a deal, right? But if they just gained exposure in our industry, I can't control that. They can take that with them. So if they have 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 followers of truckers, I can't keep that from them. So why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they like and share my shit? Why wouldn't they get on the train? Because they get to take it with them. They can't take customers I've done business with. That's in breach of our employment agreement. But they take their social media with them. I can't control that. Why wouldn't they be doing that?
Because most people are afraid to do it to begin with.
It's crazy.
And most people aren't thinking that long term. Yeah. And here's the interesting thing that I heard from what you just said. You have this very strong culture, and you want people to get on board with that culture. And if you're the right fit and the right person, and you get those pillars, you're going to be really successful here. And if not, it's probably not the right place for you. And if it's strong enough, like a Ed Milet or Andy Frizzell, you're going to get popped out the back. I don't even have to worry. You're not not going to last here, which is incredibly powerful. But you're also basically saying, listen, you can and should be telling your story. You should be putting yourself out there in front of the potential customers. And if it doesn't work out, realize you're not the right culture fit. Well, guess what? Culture is 2 ways. With your clients, there's culture fit or not there as well. And so if they're not a culture fit employee-wise at your organization, well, then their story and their reason and the people they're going after probably aren't the right fit for you anyway. So good. You got something out of being here. Totally. You learned how to tell your story. Go do your own thing. We're on different pages. That's awesome, because now that I feel like is empowering to an employee to say you have a huge shot and an opportunity, but you don't walk out the door with nothing if you put in the work.
Yeah. I just think that's the new reality of the employee-employer relationship. And for the employers who are fighting against that, it's a losing battle. The rock will fall on you eventually. If you continue to push that up the hill, you might as well just capitulate and say, this is the new reality, and this is how we're going to operate. And we're going to operate with total transparency and freedom internally and externally to all of our customers and our competitors, which I think is this huge thing that people are so afraid of, is we're going to give our inside secrets, the secret sauce to our competitors. Dude, come on. My competitors are Wells Fargo, GE Capital, Bank of America, right? They don't care about our little secret sauce. Trust me. We're not even on their freaking radar screen, right?
Oh man, and and it's so funny. And you look at anyone who does it well, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, who have huge businesses and huge audiences. They're telling you exactly what to do because they both know that 99% of people aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
So like you can put it all out there, and the 1% that might do it, they weren't going to work with you anyway. They were going to figure it out on their own. Everybody else, you can tell them everything all day. Most people aren't going to do anything with it.
That's great. That's a tough reality, right? As you move into a personal brand, as we both build these personal brands and we speak and we write, it's a little bit of a bummer that you realize that a very small percentage of people are actually going to do anything with what you tell it to do.
Oh man, it's crazy. I had an interesting experience when I was at 10X. This guy comes up to me and he was like, "Hey man, we met last year on the boat thing." Oh yeah, I remember you. He's talking to me. And he's like, I don't get it, man. I've been following you ever since we met last year. It's so crazy what you're doing on social, so crazy. You're building your business, all this stuff. Like, what is it? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What is it? I'm like, I'm just doing it. And, I told him a little bit about like really just getting aligned with the story and then going after it and just having the guts to just go and taking action. That's pretty much it. But he's like, but what is it, man? And he's like, I've been hesitating. Like, I want to get a team. I want to do this social. He's in real estate, I think. He's like, should I do it? I go, yeah, everyone should do it. Of course you should do it. He's like, yeah, but I can't afford a team. I go, I couldn't afford a team last year. My accountant said no. He's like, yeah, but I said, well, where were you last year? I said, financially. And he told me how much he made. He made way more money than I did. And I told him, I go, dude, this is how much I made last year. I made less than you. We were sitting on that boat. And I make more than, he's like, oh my God. And he had this like crazy, I could see it in his head, like the wheels are like turning. And he's like, what? I'm like, the only difference between like you and me this year is that I took an extreme amount of action. Yeah. That's it. And I remember talking to him last year, looking at him, he's telling me what he's doing and how well he's doing. I'm like, man, this guy's got it figured out. That was a weird paradigm shift, but it's so true because most people, they can hear the same information, be in the same place with the same opportunities that potentially make the same connections, and they don't do it.
Yep. I love it, man. It comes back to how we started. It's this concept of bold, which happens to be the name of your company, which I like so much. It's such an integral part of the American psyche that's missing. I talk about it in the book. I call it this concept of what I refer to as unbridled ambition. I don't think we have enough ambition anymore. I think we're just a little bit too complacent in so many different areas. And I challenge people to be bold, to be unbridled in their ambition, because we got to get our piece. Look, as much as I loved Naveen Jain at the thing talking about his moonshot, bought his product, by the way, too. Awesome. I love that. But he's a billionaire. Okay? It's a hell of a lot easier to talk about your moonshot when you have the billion. My stance to people is go get your piece of the American pie first, and then go figure out what the hell your moonshot's going to be and how many people you can help. But you got to help yourself first, and I believe you do it by being ridiculously bold and ambitious.
I agree. You just have to go after it. And it's and even for me, I'm still realizing this after 10X. I'm like, what's my biggest takeaway? And I'm like, I'm not pushing as hard as I know I can. Of course.
That's the beauty of being, in the ecosphere of a guy like Cardone, is you hear him on the first day and you hear his voice shot and you say, oh my gosh, we're not going to see him tomorrow morning. He's going to be in the hotel room resting, right? He's just going to be ordering room service and drinking tea. And the sumbitch is taking IV drips one after another so he can be better on Sunday than he was on freaking Thursday. I mean, he's just a machine. And we need those people in our lives to test our push.
Yeah, it's that contrast, the perspective to realize, wow, like there's always another level.
Dude, it's crazy. And there is another level, man. And that's that concept of false positive, which I talk about in the book, which is the most dangerous place to live, which is you really begin to convince yourself that you're doing better than you really are, right?
Oh, yeah.
And guys like Milet and Cardone, it doesn't even enter their mind.
Yeah, and what's really cool about the people who are really doing it, like I remember Milet talking to Cardone, and he admitted on stage, he's like, yeah, you know what? I let that slide in my set. You know what? And he's like taking down notes. Like he had a realization. And then you just realize like, it's just the people that are willing to be self-aware enough to say, you know what? I'm not pushing myself hard enough. I'm not doing that thing. Just the awareness of yourself, and then go and do it. And you got guys like Milet, who everyone's looking up to. Oh my God, I can never be that guy. Because he's sitting on stage he's even taking notes in real time going, oh man, I need to do that. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. And the one thing about Milet too, and Cardone's rich as well, but Milet's rich. Yeah, like he's rich, and I mean like not leveraged up rich, like lots of equity rich.
Yeah, he'll be all right. Yeah,
he'll be all right. All right, Brian, it was great to have you on it. It was a pleasure to meet you, be connected through our mutual friends and Hank, and now have our own direct friendship. So I'm grateful for you being on the podcast today, buddy.
Matt, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to finish reading the book. It's super, super exciting. And congratulations on the launch, man. It's going to be huge for you.
Dude, thank you very much. I hope so. It's going to that book is going to help a lot of people. I would not have done any of it if I didn't think it was going to, because it's a bitch to get a book out, get a book bought, get a book written, get a book publicized, and then actually convert to sales. It's very difficult to sell books. I actually think the audio version of that book is going to do better than the physical copy of the book. I mean, I just don't. I think a lot of people we have the capacity to listen. I just don't know that we have the time to read.
I agree with that.
You know?
I agree with that. I listen a lot on tape, but
Yep.
I'm going to do both. I'm going to listen to yours and I'm going to read it.
Cool. I can't wait, man. I look forward to yours, which will be coming down, I'm sure. Brian, take care of yourself, buddy. I'll see you down the road.